We're just minutes away from the first results in a historically close election.
After months of campaigning across the country, it is the final countdown to knowing who will lead the United States for the next 4 years.
It's an election night matchup that seemed unlikely just months ago.
Now it comes down to Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. The BBC is right in the heart of the action.
I'm Sarah Smith at the Harris HQ in Washington, D.C., where her supporters will be watching the results coming in and hoping to see the candidate herself later tonight.
I'm Gary O'Donoghue with the Trump campaign in Florida, where the former president is expecting these results to deliver him an historic return to the White House.
I'm Clive Myrie in Washington, where Joe Biden will be watching the results come in at the White House to discover who'll be replacing him in the Oval Office.
BBC reporters are on the ground in the 7 swing states where this election will likely be won and lost. In Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, in North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona and Nevada. They're speaking to voters and hearing from the candidates as the results come in.
And across the globe, our correspondents are getting reaction in critical regions and analyzing the impact this election will have on the rest of the world.
Here in Washington, Christian Fraser is at the touchscreen, breaking down the results as they happen.
Our U.S. special correspondent Katty Kay is here, along with our expert panel for analysis throughout the night.
And as the night unfolds, BBC Verifies Mariana Spring will be working to separate fact from fiction in this highly contested election.
I'm Sumi Somaskanda.
And I'm Caitríona Perry. We're live in Washington. This is the BBC's Election Night programme. Now you're looking at live pictures of voting taking place right now all around the United States. In just a few minutes, we'll get the first results of the 2024 US presidential election. When polls begin to close in the states of Indiana and Kentucky, we'll bring them to you live as we get them.
More than 80 million people already participated in pre-election voting around the country, some states seeing record numbers. Now, the campaigns are preparing for the long haul as results come in, and this could be one of the tightest races in modern U.S. history.
The BBC is following this election across the U.S. and around the world like no one else can.
Here in Washington, we have our expert panel, former members of Congress Rodney Davis and Stephanie Murphy, and Katty Kay with us. Stay with us all night long as we bring you up-to-the-minute results and race projections. First, let's get right to our correspondents. BBC North America editor Sarah Smith is at the Harris campaign watch party right here in Washington, D.C. Sarah, what's the mood like there tonight?
Well, there's a bit of excitement building. We just saw a rehearsal with some dancers who are obviously planning to come on if there is anything to celebrate a little bit later on. The stage is very much set for Vice President Harris to be able to come and make an acceptance speech if indeed that's the way the night pans out. But nobody who's helping set this up, none of her supporters who are starting to arrive really has any idea whether or not that's going to be the case. I've been getting messages from people inside the Harris campaign saying that they've seen anecdotal evidence, they've seen some statistics that make them think she will outperform the polls that we've been seeing, but you know, that's what you would expect them to say at this point in the campaign, isn't it? They're trying to keep an optimistic frame of mind. The truth is, they don't know any better than the rest of us whether what happens here at Howard University is going to turn into a celebration or whether we're going to hear her conceding defeat.
Who knows indeed. Thanks for that, Sarah. Now let's go to the Donald Trump campaign headquarters in Florida, where BBC's senior North America correspondent Gary O'Donoghue is. Gary, how are things there?
Well, they're just warming up here as they are in Washington there at the Harris headquarters. Donald Trump is a couple of miles away from where I'm speaking to you over at his home on Mar-a-Lago, which is on Palm Beach itself. They've taken this convention center, they've invited a bunch of guests. You can see they've put up a big screen and a stage, and everyone's wondering whether or not he will come here later on to claim victory or concede the election. He said at the polling station early on he would accept the result if the election was fair. That, of course, is an almost if in the case of Donald Trump, because we know in 2020 he came out at 2:30 in the morning and prematurely claimed victory when he'd in fact lost.
Indeed. All right, Gary, thank you. We'll check in with you a little bit later. And the BBC's Clive Myrie is at the White House for us. Clive, this is a very different election night than President Biden had imagined.
Absolutely, Sumi. Hello to you and to Caitríona as well. The President and First Lady, we're told they are in residence, glued to their TV screens in their private quarters, just like everybody else on this momentous day. They will be getting regular updates, we understand, on the state of play in all the races across the country as the night unfolds. That's according to White House officials. But you're right, this is probably going to be a very difficult moment for Joe Biden. Remember, it's barely 3 months since it was supposed to be him. He should have been the candidate. He should have been the president who was running for re-election, until, of course, he had that disastrous debate performance against Donald Trump and ended up having to pull out of the race. Now, frankly, he's a bystander. And remember, he's hardly been used by the Harris campaign throughout the last few weeks of campaigning. Why? Because he has an approval rating that's one of the lowest of any incumbent president. And the Harris team have been thinking, well, he probably would be a drag on the ticket. I'm actually reminded of the difficulty that Al Gore had, for instance, back in 2000. Should he have used Bill Clinton to help him on the stump after the Monica Lewinsky scandal? Very difficult indeed, and we know what the Harris team have decided to do. They simply have not used him. So it's going to be a very, very difficult night, I think. Bitter in some respects, but possibly sweet as well, if it's a Harris win.
All right, Clive, thank you very much from there at the White House. Now, as we count down to the first results, it's going to be very exciting. Let's get more on the candidates and the closing arguments that they made to voters.
Across the United States, voters are choosing between two different visions for America.
Our country will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before.
Ours is about a fight for democracy and your right to be heard.
Former President Donald Trump seeking to reclaim the Oval Office, pledging to tackle immigration and fix the economy.
We will end inflation. We will stop the invasion of criminals into our country.
Vice President Kamala Harris could make history as America's first female president and the first woman of color to hold the nation's highest office. She campaigned on reproductive rights and the economy.
You can make decisions about your own body for yourself.
Joined by their running mates, Republican Senator J.D. Vance, born into poverty and now competing for the second highest job in the country.
I will be a vice president who never forgets where he came from.
And Democratic Governor Tim Walz, the former teacher and coach, vaulted to a presidential ticket after an unexpected change at the top.
We're on offense and we've got the ball. We're driving down the field.
The issues are clear.
Definitely a healthier economy where things are more affordable.
I think closing the border is a key.
I don't think that anybody should be able to control somebody else's body.
Really, it's about what we think our democracy is and whether or not it's going to withstand.
And the world is watching.
When we fight, we win!
Make America great again.
All right, let's bring you now some live pictures from Dearborn, Michigan, and also from Maricopa County, Arizona.